Hello and welcome back to another highly anticipated bending tutorial. That's right, today we're making bread bending part 2. I'm just kidding, it's water bending. I'm doing water bending, don't worry. Yeah, so today we have 4 different abilities. Now for those of you guys who followed on stream, you will notice that the water whip that I was working on is not part of this tutorial because it's big and it's going to be its own tutorial. It's up there. But we do have 4 abilities and I'm going to show them off to you guys so you guys know what we're making today. Ignore the dead grass. We'll get to that in a second. So the first witch is a simple water blade. If you hold the heart of the sea, you can shoot a blade of actual water, not like a particle. It's going to be an actual water block that shoots across like a simple water blade. And I should mention that yes, these abilities will work in PvP. You just won't be able to have waterbenders fight waterbenders, that kind of thing. The next up is the ice wall. So essentially you hold packed ice and you sneak and you place an ice wall. And this is unique from the previous wall I did because this actually just lingers on the ground for a period of time and doesn't require you to constantly be holding out your thing in order to sustain it. This is just a pretty simple, you can place it and take cover behind it. And of course you can actually place multiple of these and build yourself into an igloo if you really want to. But it is on a time duration, so you probably won't be able to do that much. I think I messed up a little bit. Anyways, the next one is a little bit more of a support skill. Basically, while you're underwater, you're going to have like a ring of bubbles that's going to be circling around you, and this is underwater holding a glowing sack. You'll have some sound effects, and you'll be constantly healed and have water breathing. So this is kind of how in the show, the waterbenders are able to heal themselves while in water. And similar to that, we have this effect. We also just have some water breathing just to go along with it. And last but not least, as you guys can kind of already tell maybe by some of the dead looking vegetation that we have around the map, we actually have blood bending. So what we do for blood bending is I'll show it first on a couple of mobs. While I'm holding redstone, mobs are going to be locked in place and they're going to be getting constant sources of damage. This can be for all mobs in front of where you're looking. As you can see, I'm not really looking at them yet. Now that I start looking at them, they're going to start getting blood bent and dying. Pretty fun, pretty effective. Now you'll also notice from the area around the map is that I have some weird kind of dead vegetation. So part of blood bending is that you actually basically are drying up because you're staking all of the water from crops and plants as you're nearby. So short grass and ferns are turned into wither roses, leaves are turned into mangrove roots because they look like dead leaves, and this is all just kind of a side effect of you using blood bending on vegetation, which I think is pretty cool visual effect that you guys have going on here with blood bending. But yeah, that's more or less it. And of course you guys can adjust these. You can make it, if you don't want it to adjust plants, then you can make it not adjust plants. That's perfectly fine. I'll show you guys how to do that. But yeah, these are the 4 effects that we have for the waterbenders. So first of things first is you're actually going to want to give yourself the tag waterb. Simply type this in chat. Boom. Now you're going to be a waterbender. If you don't have that tag, these abilities actually aren't going to work on you because you're not a waterbender. Pretty simple. Now the other thing that we want to do is, of course, do a scoreboard, because there's always got to be a scoreboard in these things, isn't there? So simply type this into chat or type this into a command block and power at once. All you need to do is make a scoreboard named P timer. That is primarily just for this, the water blade, so that way there's a timer on the water blade, so after a couple seconds, as we can see, it's just going to fizzle out and become a little puddle on the ground. Because you don't want it to extend forever. That would be not great. And also really laggy. So what we're doing with this command is we're checking for a player who is a waterbender. They have that tag. They're holding a Heart of the Sea in their main hands. They don't have the tag W Blade, which would mean they've already fired it, and I'll get to that in a second. And we're checking to make sure that they are sneaking. If all that is the case, then we can summon an armor stand named W Blade. Next up, we're going to be checking at the same player, same stuff. So they have the waterbending tag, Heart of the Sea. They don't have the tag W Blade and they're sneaking. Then it's going to add the tag W Blade to them. This means that after it summons one armor stand, the player is going to get a tag, which means they can't summon another one until they unsneak and then re-sneak. That way it's not fully automatic, it's like every time you press it, it summons one. Next up, we're just going to make it so that if the player is no longer sneaking, but they have the tag W Blade, It just removes W blade, meaning they're ready to fire again. And lastly, we're just going to make the W blade invisible. Just pretty simple. You don't want to see the armor stand. That's why we don't. Simple as that. Next up, we're going to be adding the timer because we don't want to actually have these things go on infinitely. So we're going to add anything named W blade, P timer 1. And it should be mentioned this is on a 10-tick delay. And of course, after the timer is 6 or higher, we're just going to kill the armor stand. Once again, this is so you don't have armor stands going off infinitely, causing lag and a bunch of bad stuff. Although, if you do want a longer range, you can go ahead and make this number higher. No, you make a number taller. But if you figure out a way to make a number taller, leave that in the comments and let me know. Alright, then we're going to be actually doing the teleport commands. Simply add the W blade, teleport yourself 1 block forward. That's all this command does. Next up, and this is where we actually get the water stuff in, what we're actually doing is in the area surrounding the W blade, we're going to fill air, replacing flowing water. This gets rid of any flowing water in the area, which might sound weird because we're replacing flowing water. Well, we want to make a water blade. We don't want to make a trail of water that you have to clean up later with sponges. So we're going to actually get rid of the flowing water in the area, and then we're going to place flowing water with a liquid depth of 1. And we're also using keeps, that way it's not destroying blocks. So essentially what we end up doing is, as this armor stand is traveling along, it's going to clean up any flowing water in the area, and then it's going to place another source of flowing water. This way, as it's moving along, it gets rid of the old blocks, and then constantly replaces the new ones. Pretty simple. Lastly, we of course have to do damage. So we're executing at anything named W blade. We're going to just damage anything within 2 blocks. It's not an armor stand, it's not a waterbender, with 15 drowning damage. Simple as that. And that's actually it for the water blade. Also, it should be noted that the water blade is the only thing that even needs to use scoreboards. So if you're still apprehensive about scoreboard commands, don't worry, none more of that in today's video. Next up is going to be the actual ice wall, and I was wrong. We are using scoreboard. I completely lied. We are using scoreboards, but it's the same scoreboard. So don't worry, just follow what I have and you'll be fine. What we're doing is we're checking at a player who's a waterbender. They have the tag water B. They're holding packed ice in their main hands, and they don't have the tag ice wall, which is similar to W blade. It makes it so they don't place it automatically. It's semi-automatic. Unless entity, and this is the sneak detection, you guys have seen this before, summon an armor stand in front of the player named Ice Wall. So, once again, to reiterate, I'm a waterbender holding an packed ice in my hands, and I'm sneaking. It's going to summon an armor stand in front of me. Well, that's all that is. Okay. Next up, exact same command, except for adding the tag Ice Wall to ourselves. Once again, same thing as what we did over here. Then, if the player is not sneaking and they have the tag Ice Wall, go ahead and remove Ice Wall. And lastly, we're going to give Ice Wall invisibility because we don't want to see the armor stands. Pretty simple. That's just summoning the Ice Wall in front of where I'm looking. And we are copying the rotation of the player, which is why if I place the Ice Wall straight on, it's straight on. And if I place it this way, it's this way. If I place it at an angle, it's at an angle. Yeah, basically what we're doing here. That's why we need to copy the rotation of the player. If you don't know what I'm saying, just follow what I've shown and it will still work. Now what we're doing on a 10-tick delay is we're executing at anything named Ice Wall, so the armor stand, and we're giving it a P timer score of 1. This just means that on a 10-tick delay, we're adding up the timer, and I can actually show you guys real quick. So, as you can see with the water blade, the P timer goes up. Once it hits 6, it's gonna die. Same with the Ice Wall, it's gonna add up, and I believe when it hits 10, we'll see. I forget what number I put. Might be 20. Okay, it's about 18, looks like. Alright, right here, 20. So what we're doing here is essentially when the timer hits 20 or more, it's just going to get rid of the ice wall. But we're actually going to do some other stuff first, because when the timer hits 19, we're actually going to fill air replacing packed ice, which, let me clarify what that means. We're looking at the armor stand, and we're finding any packed ice in the area, which would be the ice wall itself, and just replacing that with air, sending it back to normal. Next up, we're going to start actually filling in the ice wall. So I should mention that this was on the P timer of 19, and the actual killing it is on a P timer of 20. meaning that we actually get rid of the ice wall and then we actually kill the armor stands. But what we're doing here is we're executing at the ice wall, and we are placing a pillar of ice 1 block below it and 3 blocks up wherever the armor stand actually is. So essentially we'll pretend the armor stand is this green block. This first command is going to just place some ice right there like that. Now the next command, that's the wrong one, is going to do exactly the same thing, except instead of right on the block, we're actually going to be placing it slightly off to the side. So now we have an ice wall like this. Alright. Next up, we're going to be doing the same thing, except we're going to place it 1 block further out to the side and 1 block closer to the player. Essentially what that'll do is we could have a flat wall like this, but instead we actually curve the wall a bit, so that way it's a little bit more protective. It's going to cover a wider angle essentially. Now with the next command we're going to do, same one. Next command we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to go right out from the player and place one right beside it on this side. And then this one, we're going to do the complete opposite, which is of course place it like that. That's how we form the ice wall with all these different commands. Just one more time, I'm going to show them all to you. And lastly, we're actually going to give the tag place to the ice wall. Because if you guys see here, we're checking if the ice wall has not been placed. So essentially, it's only going to place the ice block once per armor stands. And then once it's done placing it, it's going to get the tag placed, so it can't place anymore. That means if you break a wall here, and I will actually demonstrate on the ice wall, if I break these out, they're not going to get instantly replaced. Simple as that. But yeah, that's essentially what we have for the ice wall, so that's kind of like your main defensive ability, and essentially that's all there is to it. Next up, we're going to go over the kind of healing, I don't even have a name for this one, you guys can name it. The glowing sac healing thing of wateriness, water bending, aquatic, medical, breathing stuff. Yeah, that's the official name. I like that. So, it's pretty simple. All we're doing is, first and foremost, we're actually doing the effects. We're just checking, is there a waterbender holding the ink sac in their main hand? If so, give them regeneration. And also, give them water breathing. Pretty simple. Should mention it is on a 0 tick delay, it should be on a 10 tick delay. There you go. Next, we have this command over here on an 8 tick delay, which is just going to be playing some sounds. Once again, if the player is holding ink sac and they're in water, that's all that is. And lastly, we have the actual particles. I should mention this first one is on a 4 tick delay, but the rest of them are on 1 tick delays. So the first one here is just this simple particle commands. And the next one is very similar particle command, just the coordinates are a little bit different. Same thing, different coordinates, different coordinates, different coordinates. You guys get the idea. Pretty simple. This is actually probably the easiest of the abilities because only the particles are a little bit tedious to make, but it's just a simple kind of support. You become a healer. And lastly, we have blood bending. So first we're going to do the actual effect it has on... Not that. I'm just going to get rid of this. Pop, pop, pop. Pop. First is the effect it has on mobs, which is actually only 2 commands. And then the effect it has on crops, which is a couple more. So all we're doing here is checking for a water bender holding redstone. Then it's going to go 5 blocks out from the player. Then for anything within 4 blocks, it's going to TP itself slightly upwards. This is going to freeze it in place and slightly raise it in the air. And pretty much same thing, except this time instead of teleporting, we're doing a damage commands. And if you guys want to change the type of damage, you can go ahead and make this higher, lower, whatever you guys want. Pretty simple. That's actually it. That's all you need for the combat portion. The vegetation part is entirely optional, and if you guys don't want it, just don't make these commands right here. So what we're doing is we're checking at the waterbender, holding redstone, we're going 5 blocks out from the direction they're looking, and then we're filling the area in front of them with dirt, replacing grass. This is what turns the dirt to grass, or the grass to dirt, sorry. Next up, exactly the same thing. We're just replacing mangrove roots with leaves. And we're doing the same thing twice with leaves too, because some leaves are categorized as leaves, like oak, birch, spruce. Some are categorized as leaves too, like these jungle leaves that you see around me. So you do actually need both for all types of leaves. Next up, and this was at request of livestream, because for those who don't know, I do everything on livestream. We're just going to be replacing short grass with wither roses. And similarly, exact same command, except replacing wither roses with ferns. So that, and reverse. But you know what I mean. So, yeah. I don't know. I feel like I'm not making any sense right now, and I'm talking in short bits. So, it's time for the outro. If you guys need any help with commands, feel free to leave a comment, but of course you're also more than welcome to simply just join our Discord, which is what I recommend because there's lots of people that can help you more than just me. Additionally, all these things are made on live stream with viewers being able to add input and add requests to the things that I make. So if you guys would like to be part of those live streams, make sure you subscribe with notifications on, as I don't always plan those live streams out, but you guys do have the opportunity to vote on the things that I make. Other than that, I hope you guys enjoy. This is kind of the last in the main series of the waterbending, or the Avatar the Last Airbender commands. However, I do actually want to make more, like sequels with sub-bendings or more moves. So if you guys do like the series, make sure to let me know in comments or likes, that kind of stuff. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.